What happens when ambition, a giant ego, and a terrible sense of direction collide? You get one of the most disastrous, yet most important, failures in Texas history. A story of a legendary explorer who, in trying to build a French empire, accidentally kicked a sleeping giant. Last time, we saw Spain lose interest in Texas after finding no gold. They left it as a vast, empty buffer zone. They had no idea their biggest rival was about to stumble into their backyard and force their hand. Get ready for a tale of grand dreams, colossal mistakes, and a doomed fort that changed Texas forever. Howdy, history fans, and welcome back. If you think getting lost on the way to the grocery store is bad, wait until you hear this story. To make sure you never miss these epic tales from the past, go ahead and plant your flag on that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It's the best way to claim your spot in our community of history explorers. Spain may have been ignoring Texas, but France was not. By the late 1600s, the French had built a massive fur trading empire in Canada and the Great Lakes region, and the man of the hour was René Robert Cavelier Sieur de La Salle. He was one of the most famous explorers of his day, tough, incredibly ambitious, but also arrogant, difficult to work with, and notoriously bad with people. In 1682, La Salle had achieved something incredible. He led an expedition all the way down the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. Standing at the river's mouth, he claimed the entire Mississippi River Valley for France, naming it La Louisiane in honor of his king, Louis XIV. This was a massive territory, and La Salle had a grand vision for it. He returned to France and went straight to the king. He proposed a bold plan. He would sail back to the Gulf, establish a colony at the mouth of the Mississippi, and from there he could control the entire interior of North America, corner the valuable fur trade, and even use it as a base to attack Spain's rich silver mines in Mexico. King Louis XIV, who loved any plan that involved expanding France's power and annoying Spain, gave him the green light. In 1684, La Salle set sail from France with 4 ships and about 300 colonists, a mix of soldiers, craftsmen, priests, and families. But the expedition was a disaster from the very beginning. One of his ships was captured by Spanish pirates right at the start. Even worse, La Salle and the naval commander Beaujeu absolutely hated each other and argued constantly. La Salle's biggest mistake, however, was a catastrophic navigational error. Maps of the Gulf Coast were notoriously inaccurate back then, and La Salle had miscalculated the location of the Mississippi's mouth. Instead of landing in Louisiana, he sailed an astonishing 400 miles past his target, landing in February 1685 at Matagorda Bay, right in the middle of the Texas coast. Convinced he was near a western mouth of the Mississippi, he ordered the colony to be established. During the landing, his supply ship, L'Aimable, carrying most of the colony's food, tools, and medicine, sank in a storm after hitting a sandbar. This was a devastating blow. Stranded in an unknown land, with dwindling supplies and no idea where they were, the colonists were already in deep trouble. La Salle established a crude settlement he named Fort St. Louis near Garcetus Creek. It wasn't much more than a few rough timber buildings surrounded by a wooden palisade. But life at the fort was a living nightmare. The climate was harsh, they struggled to find fresh water, and food was scarce. Worst of all, disease ran rampant through the camp, killing colonists every week. Their neighbors were the Karankawa people, and the relationship was hostile from the start. The French, arrogant and desperate, stole canoes and food from them, leading to a cycle of raids and violent clashes. The Karankawa were powerful warriors and knew the land, and they made life for the French colonists even more miserable. La Salle himself was a terrible leader for this situation. He grew tyrannical and paranoid. He made several desperate expeditions trying to find the Mississippi River, each one a failure that cost more lives. His last remaining ship, La Belle, which was supposed to be his lifeline back to civilization, was wrecked in a storm, sealing the colony's fate. They were completely and utterly stranded. In January 1687, La Salle made one last desperate attempt to find help. He took a small group of men and set off on foot, hoping to walk all the way to French forts in Canada. But his men, pushed to the breaking point by his harsh leadership, had enough. Near the Trinity River, a group of his own men ambushed and assassinated him. The great explorer, Sieur de La Salle, who had claimed an empire for France, died unceremoniously in the Texas wilderness, betrayed by his own followers. Back at Fort St. Louis, the handful of survivors, mostly women and children, clung to life. But in late 1688, the Karankawa, seeing their chance, overran the weakened fort. They killed the remaining adults and took the children captive. The French dream in Texas was over. Meanwhile, Spain had no idea any of this was happening. At first. But when they captured a French pirate who had been part of La Salle's original fleet, the news sent shockwaves through the Spanish government. A French colony? In their territory? Unacceptable. The sleeping giant was wide awake. Suddenly, Texas went from being a worthless wasteland to a vital buffer zone that had to be secured at all costs. The Spanish launched a frantic search to find and destroy the French fort. They sent out no fewer than 11 expeditions, 5 by sea and 6 by land, desperately trying to locate the French intruders. Finally, in 1689, an expedition led by a governor named Alonso de Leon found the ruins of Fort St. Louis. He described a scene of total devastation. Ransacked buildings, broken furniture, torn books, and the skeletal remains of the colonists. De Leon also found and rescued some of the French children who were living with the Native Americans. The discovery of the fort, even in ruins, was a terrifying wake-up call for Spain. The French had proven that Spain's claim to Texas was vulnerable. If they didn't occupy Texas, another country would. The French threat, even in failure, was the exact motivation Spain needed to finally get serious about colonizing Texas. And so, the greatest failure of La Salle's life became his most lasting legacy in Texas. His doomed colony directly panicked Spain into action. They realized they couldn't just claim the land, they had to control it. The ashes of Fort St. Louis would give rise to a new Spanish strategy, a chain of missions and presidios designed to hold Texas against all rivals. The French threat was gone for now, but the Spanish response would shape the culture, religion, and architecture of Texas for the next century. Join us next time as we explore the age of the Spanish missions, a story of faith, conflict, and the creation of a unique Tejas culture. Thanks for exploring this colossal failure with us. What do you think was La Salle's biggest mistake? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss our next chapter. Until then, stay curious.